Tell me when it's going.
Rolling on here.
All right. Hey, what's up, boys? We're back at it. Another episode of the podcast. I got something for y'all.
Oh, man. Oh,
no.
man.
He was ready.
This guy.
Okay, so first.
He's been waiting.
I know, I didn't want to say anything until we started recording because it had to be organic. And I was going to wait for Avery also, but we could save him a piece. So this is like a piece of a chocolate bar from Honduras I brought for us to eat on the podcast. And what's interesting about it is literally like we walk in there, like we went to this like chocolate factory, but it was like if Willy Wonka was raised in Newark. Like face.
Are you telling me there's something in this chocolate that we're going to be feeling?
Oh, no, that would be even better. But there was just like one lady in a glass room who's like making chocolate bars. And they make one chocolate bar per cocoa pod that has like a certain amount. So, and then also the chocolate, it doesn't melt in the heat. Like you can leave it in your car in the heat.
What?
And
Really?
it doesn't melt. Because it doesn't have like all the preservatives and all this shit that's in like a Hershey's bar. It's like they made this shit from scratch. Like from the fruit, making it down. Okay, so I thought that would be.
So should we open it right now?
Do you want to save it?
Yeah, we can do it. I got something else though. Why not?
Oh. This is the mushrooms now.
Yeah. Got a couple of these boys.
Oh, no way.
Oh, for Avery also.
No way.
You guys get first pick. So
Wow.
spiced rum,
Oh, that
chocolate rum,
spice rum might be.
and then espresso rum.
Oh, I got espresso.
So it's
No doubt.
It's from like
Oh,
we
man.
went to this like rum place in Honduras also that they had like rum cakes that we also got some of. And
Whoa.
Oh.
Bro forgot he was plugged in.
Almost party foul.
all right, whichever one you don't pick goes to Avery.
Did you get one
Definitely
too?
get that spice rum.
No, it's
Oh.
not for you guys.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, some other stuff.
Oh, so we're smoking these on the pod?
Hot box the garage. A garage pot. Smoky
Should we
pot.
try this right now? And
Yeah,
then
let's
save a
break
piece
it
for
open.
him?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, I'm going to open it up.
I think. Wait, what flavor is that one? Is it just milk chocolate or is there coconut or something?
Island coconut.
Okay.
Ooh.
Cause yeah, we got like a couple of them for my family and stuff too. Yeah, another one that we had was like a white chocolate one that didn't taste as good, but
ASMR.
it's still really good.
ASMR.
It's just like a different consistency.
Okay, so while we're breaking this up, why don't you give us a quick little summary of why you were there and what you were
Yeah.
doing, who you were with, stuff like that?
Yeah. So we did a cruise with my girlfriend's family that we booked this cruise like literally like a year ago. And it's always been like so far in the distance, just like waiting for this to come up. And so essentially the rundown, I'm gonna take a piece of it
Okay,
also.
let's all try it at the same time.
I got kind of a fat piece, so I can save a little for Avery if we need.
There, yeah, there's still a good piece in here.
These I'd say really high quality and natural.
It's not like super sweet.
What if I
It's
was
a little
like,
bit like dark chocolate,
what if we were like,
but not as bitter.
I think I've had better. Just
I can
We should have
definitely
compared this with Mr. Beast candy bar.
I
Dude,
can
what?
tell why people that like are used to actual like cocoa bean chocolate, like when they have American chocolate, they're like, dude, it just tastes like sugar. Like
Yeah.
it's just so overpoweringly sweet. That's all you taste is like barely the chocolate flavor. But this is just so much chocolate. Like it's not like overpoweringly sweet that I feel like it's so rich. If that makes sense. I don't know. But pretty bomb for sure.
Yeah, they also had this like hot sauce that we got. They tossed that shit at the airport though. It was like the dankest hot sauce ever.
No.
It was so good. It was like a habanero. It was like actually really spicy. You just dip like a corner of it on a chip and eat it. But the flavor was really good. It was like a good spicy, not like a painful spicy.
Was it too big of a bottle?
Yeah. And we knew that. We just forgot to like check it in her parents' bag because we didn't check any bags. I just had my duffel bag, backpack, shoulder bag. But so it was 6 days total. We left from Miami. First day out at sea, pretty much just like hanging out on the cruise ship. Departing out of Miami is beautiful because
Yeah, that's where I departed from mine.
super cool because like especially like if you've been to the beaches in Miami and then now you get to like be on top of this like floating hotel on the water, like seeing the water from the top of the cruise ship, it's like a different view from like being in a motorboat. And then the second day, so let's see, the first day we depart, second day is a full day at sea, third day we wake up in the morning and we're docked in Roatan, Honduras at Mahogany Bay. And that's where, like, we booked our excursions not through the cruise. Like, most people would just go, there's, like, a little, like, private beach that Carnival owns that people just go to that, like, the majority of the cruise goes on. And we, like, researched and found, like, a monkey and sloth hangout excursion that was, like, $40. We got to hang out with, like, the monkeys, the sloths, some birds and shit. And then they took us out snorkeling in the water for like an hour. And then a tour of the whole island. Just like driving around because we weren't on mainland Honduras. We're on like an island off of Honduras.
Yeah.
And our guide was this homie who had lived there his whole life. And so he was like giving us this perspective. It's like when we're showing Great Scott around Salt Lake City and it's my backyard. But now I'm in like rural Honduras and this homie is like telling us all about it. Like the main road is like the Autobahn. Well, it's a small road. It's not like a big highway. And there's no speed limit or anything like that. And then we like drove through this like city area that just like had just like children naked running in the streets and people selling things on the side of the roads and stray dogs everywhere and like people on scooters and mopeds and driving crazy. And so at the chocolate place we pull up and there's like all these children selling bracelets to tourists. And it's just so funny. There's this little homie named Victor and there's just like this little entrepreneur. And you know, we all had cash that we had to pull out to like pay for the excursions. You can't like pay with your card. You pay them with cash. And then also like tipping is like a big thing in the culture. And so like we would tip them with cash. So the kids like knew that the tourists would have cash on them. And I liked little homie. I was like, I'll find you after the chocolate if you're still here and I'll get something from you. And so afterwards I met up. I like vlogged all this too, so you'll see the homie in the video when I eventually drop it.
Used him for views.
Yeah. I was like, listen here, you little shit. If I'm giving you 5 of my hard-earned fucking dollars, I'm getting some clout off of this.
American dollars? Come on.
Yeah, bro. American? And so sure enough, all the other kids are around, and they're like, Mister, you buy from him. You have to buy one from me too. You can get one from me too. So I just like bought like a couple of them from the different kids. And then one of the kids, because I didn't want to give them any 20s. And so I only gave them like the broken bills I had. And so I didn't have enough for like one of the kids. I just gave him like a couple bucks. And apparently like the parents will have their kids go out and do this and they take the money from the kids. Uh-huh. And also apparently the bracelets aren't handmade. They just like order them in bulk from China or something.
Amazon
I got
Prime.
one of them right here, but I gave the others to like my sister and my brother. I gave them a bracelet. But then afterwards, the guide was like, do you want me to take you back to the beach where everyone else is? Or do you want to go to this one food place that I love to eat? And we're like, my guy, take us to the local spot. You already know. And it was this like private beach area where nobody is there. And it's literally like a whole staff, like a restaurant. But literally nobody was there. And we pulled up and they just like catered the whole restaurant to just our small group of like 8 people, you know? We got like conch fritters, which like, you know, like the shell that you like from SpongeBob, you blow into conch shell. When we were snorkeling, because we went snorkeling in Honduras and then in Cozumel, Mexico also. But in Honduras, it was all pretty much like 4 or 5 feet deep. It wasn't like super deep. We were pretty much able to walk the whole time. We didn't have life jackets, but we had these masks. But there were a lot of fish. We saw like a lobster also. And then there were just like those giant conch shells. You could just like find them, pick them up. And then there would be that homie inside of it. So we wanted to eat them. Because I'd had it also when I went to Florida before. But it was like in these like little like bites, like where it's almost like blended with like some flour and some dough into like a little ball. Mm-hmm. And then got like some fish tacos. And then after that, fast forward, the next day we went to Belize, which was crazy because that's just one of those places that sounds crazy. Like, I never imagined going to Belize. I never even wanted to go to Belize necessarily. Well, like when we were, I was just like, with this whole cruise experience, I'm just like, I'm along for the ride. I'm going to let you guys plan it out mostly. I'm not going to be like, we should go here. We should do this. We should do this. Like, I was more so like,
go with the flow.
Go with the flow type of vibe. And Belize had just been hit with a hurricane like a couple weeks ago. And so it was definitely like rough in the streets when we're driving through. We had like a tour guide and like an hour-long tour or hour-long drive to get to these pyramids called the Altan Ha Mayan pyramids. Mm-hmm. And then ate some food and shit. And we hit Cozumel, Mexico, and chilled on the beach, did some snorkeling there. There was like stingrays, eels.
Bro, when I did my cruise in 2007, I was in middle school, and we did snorkeling, and I remember I was terrified because that was like the same year that Steve Irwin got like barbed by a stingray.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was just like, so like, I was like, because I would like see them like swimming around. I'm like, this is where it all ends. Like I couldn't enjoy the experience at all because it was so like fresh in my mind of like that experience, you know?
Yeah.
Because I remember that was like national news, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it was like really like, I was like, couldn't stop thinking about that when I'm scuba.
And like Steve Irwin, like the dude that's
the goat
handling animals for a living.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's the one that gets killed. Yeah, that was crazy. Because in Mexico, our guide, like
my guide.
I love like older man Mexican humor reminds me of like Digital Jeff's dad.
Yeah.
And like Digital Jeff, like it's like that, like. You know? My! I love that so much. And homie was always doing that, like just like quick to like crack a joke, and then would just like do that. And I was like, "You're my guy. I love this."
It was so funny when we like visited Jeff's parents because like up until that point we didn't know his parents. Obviously, we just knew Jeff, and Jeff did that all the time. Mm-hmm. But then like when we went there and like visited them, like. His dad was speaking Spanish. We couldn't hear what he was saying, but then you just hear.
And we're like, exactly what he means. Oh man, yeah. So homie like takes us out snorkeling, and he takes us way out there, and we're like out. It's like 20, 25 feet deep.
Yeah.
And people in our group, like Ashley's starting to panic because she's like, I don't want to keep going. This is too far. And he's like, hey, just a little farther. There's a cave right down here. You know? And we're just swimming along. We're with Ashley's grandma, who's like...
What kind of boat was it? Was it a small boat? Like
we weren't even in a boat. We walk out into the water. He had like a lifeguard circular thing and was like towing Ashley's grandma, who's just holding on to it, and he's swimming, pulling her around. And then we all have like snorkeling masks.
Do you have life jackets on?
Our feet. We have these life jackets, but you like blow into it to inflate it. And when mine was inflated, the clip kept popping off. And also like when I'm snorkeling, I like to like dive under the water.
Yeah.
So I had mine deflated the whole time because I'm also like pretty good swimmer, not to brag or anything like that. So like I was fine like swimming, but it was like we were out there for kind of a while. But it was super cool being just like the feeling swimming with like a school of exotic fish.
Yeah.
Like I'm like looking around and like in the water they look closer than they are because the water like magnifies it. The water's super clear.
Yeah.
So even though it's like 15 feet, like you can see the floor. Mm-hmm. And he's like pointing out coral. He's like staying under there for like minutes. And he's like, man, 20 years ago, I could hold my breath for so much longer. I'm like, bro, you're a fish. You are a fish right now, my guy. He's like scaring out.
I hang out down here. I like to
out.
hang out down here.
Yeah. And then after that, like, dude, it's crazy because it was like $40 for this resort, open bar, unlimited drinks, a lunch that was stacked. Like, because when they like got our order for lunch, they made it seem like it was like one or the other, where it's like, oh yeah, enchiladas, tacos, fajitas, quesadillas, guacamole, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like they're telling you a menu.
And everybody just gets this massive fucking plate of food. None of us could finish it all. And I was even like, I hadn't eaten breakfast that day. I was like hungry. I was like, I'm about to body this. Barely made a freaking dent. I'm like, what am I doing? Like every meal is like fresh like rice and beans also. And it was just like so good. Sipping pina coladas.
Oh yeah.
And swinging in the hammocks. And yeah, they were like, because what was interesting, what I didn't expect to like so much about cruises, because like I'm the type of person that if I have the opportunity, I'm gonna go through the drive-through, because I don't want to. I'm not like going out to eat or to do something to like socialize. Like I'm like, if I want to just like get my food. Let me take it home. I'll eat it at home.
Is that a Utah specific thing? Like Utah County specific thing? Like,
well, I like to go out like, I guess if I'm like going out like on a date or something like that, or like going out with friends or something. But if it's like, oh, I'm just going to get something, I would rather like hit the self-checkout. Like I don't need the human interaction from the cashier at the grocery store to make my day better.
No,
like,
I feel that super heavy. Maybe it is a Utah thing a little bit too though, because like we both do Instacart on the regular, and like if I can, I'm going to the self-checkout. I don't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. Like it's about efficiency, you know. But like if I'm going to like a date night or like a dinner, then it's nice to like have a waiter, talk to somebody, you know, but like 90% of the time, it's just about getting in, getting out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like going on the cruise, I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to socialize with the workers.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait to meet some new friends. Wasn't necessarily my perspective. But then like reflecting after the experience, I was like, wow, probably my favorite part of the trip were the people that I met and interacted with. And that's actually when I travel, one of my absolute favorite things is meeting the people and the cultures. Like when I went to Korea, my favorite thing was hanging out with June and DJ Sparrow and seeing the local perspective that they were able to show us, and like interacting with the locals makes the experience like that much better, because you're able to just like, see a more experienced perspective of the area. And so even like on the cruise ship, like we would go to dinner every night. There was like an elegant dinner thing, and our servers would like break out into dance. And they were just so friendly and loved to be there. And one homie, like after a couple days, it's just like when you go to like a mastermind retreat where it's like day one, it's like everyone's timid, no one knows each other. But then by the last day, everyone's like drinking, hugging. They're like, I'm never going to forget you. You know, like that's always the vibe at the end of an event.
Yeah.
And it was that same feeling at the end of the cruise. Because even like at the end, I was like, damn, I'm never going to see my guy again.
Yeah.
Like probably ever again in my life. I'm never going to see that dude. And he was just like so over the top positive and happy and like helpful and like you just leave your plates wherever the fuck you want to leave them. He's like anticipating that you want another drink. He's like, and he was telling us like during 2020, it was super difficult because a lot of people lost their jobs. And he said like he's from Bali and he has 3 kids and a wife. And he was like, he almost lost his house and was like selling chicken on the streets to make $20 a day. So he's like, now he's like, they're all so appreciative to be able to work on the cruise, to have that job. Like they look at it as such a great job because they do like make way more money than they would have back at home. And so for him, like, cause he'll have to do like 9 months on a cruise, then a couple months home, and then like make that sacrifice to be able to provide for his family, which is like very noble. I have like a whole lot of respect, and like you can't knock someone for doing that. Like I would never be like, just follow your dreams, bro.
Yeah.
Go chase your music career, dog.
Yeah.
You know, it's like my guy has a responsibility of children that is way more he has to take care of than just himself.
Yeah, it's honestly like a very like privileged like even thought to have is like follow your dreams, because like most of the world they're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about how do I provide food today, you know, like so it's like just always really good to remember that.
Like once you dive into the real world, once you're out of school, like once you're like you know, paying rent, it's like that's when shit starts to really roll. But they were just so positive and so dope. And even like the tour guide people were just always just like they were working for their money. So I felt good about like we were tipping them good. Like everyone in the car is pulling out 20s and giving my guy, like we're setting homie up so that he can feed his family.
Yeah.
But it feels good to be able to know like, damn, do I need this $20? Or should I just give this to my mans right here who's out here hustling, and I can sacrifice, you know, eating out once or twice this week. And it's just like that ultimate travel perspective, just like getting in an uncomfortable environment, just like going camping. Like you don't go camping because it's pleasurable. Sometimes it can be pleasurable, but also it's like, you have to work to make a fire. If you didn't have to work to make a fire, it doesn't feel as good when it goes up in flames. But when you make that fire and you built it and you collected all that material and you're all able to sit around that fire with a stack of wood for hours and you worked for it, you're like, you get this sense of fulfillment that feels good that you like did that. You set up this campsite, you cooked your food, like you left your night of comfort. And some people, that's their life, is homeless being a glorified camper, you know?
Yeah.
And like, even though like the cruise is like a pretty luxurious experience, like having all of your food covered, just kind of chilling on a cruise ship, it was also like super uncomfortable at a lot of times. Like just like motion sickness or like having to walk or like going to the pyramids, you're hiking around the pyramids, like it's like a workout. Like you're not just like on escalators or like we're taking an hour-long bumpy car ride and then another like couple mile hike, whatever, and like, but that's what makes it even doper, you know? Like when we like climbed Bukhansan in South Korea, like that was so fucking cool because no one fucking does it because it's hard. Yeah. And like afterwards, it's like, damn, like that was like some rock climbing shit and we didn't even have a harness we're just like scaling up on these chains that are drilled into the rocks.
Yeah.
And climbed up this mountain that overlooks all of Seoul, Korea, and had the most rewarding payout of a view.
Yeah.
Where you just pop out some triangle kimbops from the
Yeah.
corner store and eat those bitches.
One of those Bacardi sweats.
Some Picari Sway, yes sir.
And then yeah, looking at Seoul from above like that was like really interesting because you saw that like Seoul was like a city like in mountains, like
Oh yeah.
which like I didn't like think of at first, you know?
Because like when you're in the city, like there are a lot of buildings. Mm-hmm. So you don't see really the mountains outside.
Do you remember when we like landed in Korea and like took that train ride into Seoul?
Oh yeah.
That was like such a weird terrain.
It was beautiful.
It was
felt
like crazy.
A video game.
Like it felt like we were in another planet. Like I don't know.
Because there was no infrastructure either.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of the train ride, it was just through this area.
It was like water,
like swampy
mixed.
type.
Yes, mixed with like swamp stuff, and it was like, I was like, where are we going?
Yeah, that shit was crazy. And also on the cruise ship, there's just so much to do all the time. Like, I mean, it's crazy because I never like watched any videos or even knew like what to expect. I just assumed I knew what would go down on a cruise. But like it was just like comedy shows, piano bar where you could like request songs like Keys on Main. Mm-hmm. So I was like giving homie lots of recommendations and like you're in a small group. I'm sitting at the bar and he's like from where Adam is to me is the piano player. And so we're like in between songs, he's like talking to us and he's like a music teacher from Wales before he started like working on Carnival cruise ships. And now he just goes on Carnival cruises as a entertainer. And people are always buying him drinks. He's got a tip jar and he's probably also getting paid. And my guy's just singing Ed Sheeran, Aerosmith, whatever you want. Yeah, and he also had like a giant like mat that had songs, like recommended songs to write down, which I'm like, that would be a good idea for Keys on Main or one of the piano bars in Salt Lake to like give some recommended songs. Because sometimes when you're like on the spot, like, what song do I want to give? You give the most trash recommendation.
Yeah.
Because it's also like you got to give the recommendation in context to the instrument that's playing it. Like you can't really do like a heavy hip hop song on the piano. Some you can that are like have more chords or like more melodies, but like you couldn't do like Bop by DaBaby.
Yeah, you ain't requesting a Lil Peep on Keys on Main.
Yeah. It would be cool to have like an underground piano bar that would do those types of songs. Because that's my one thing about the like piano bars. It's always like those super just like classic songs. You know, Don't Stop Believin', Sweet Caroline, like, which those songs are definitely bar songs. Like fun to sing when you're drunk and stuff. But also it's cool to just like hear a song you love live, even if it's not the original artist, but just to hear that song live is an experience.
Yeah.
But I heard you guys got some snow here.
Yes, sir.
Either of y'all hit the slopes yet?
Nope.
Episode on the slopes?
On the ski lift.
Hey guys, on this episode, hit to 360. We're gonna need longer XLR cables for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, on that topic about like camping and stuff, I think it'd be super dope to do a winter like hot springs episode.
Oh yeah.
And like we could do one around the campfire up there in the woods, or like it'd be kind of crazy if we brought some mic stands or something. We could record a podcast in the hot springs.
Yeah.
With like just one wide angle, you know, like
yeah.
If we have a one
We
of them
totally
like
can.
Jackery things that can like power, like it's like those like solar power brick things that can plug like things into, we would only need 2, like one for the camera and one for Zoom. I guess we would also need that thing.
I mean, but if we're just
interface?
doing one camera, we could just record on one
But
camera.
we would have to like get out of the hot spring and redo it at 30 minutes because they only record 30 minutes when
That's true.
when they're
But
not
dummy
plugged in.
battery too.
Well, that doesn't override the.
Oh.
It
We also have the V-mount battery that has a good amount of juice that we could connect
But
oh yeah,
a
something
hot
to
springs
it.
episode, that'd be pretty crazy. Up in the mountains.
that'd be dope.
I feel like we gotta do that at least.
Or we can like do like if we really want to just be like chill with it, we can do the camera with a V-mount battery, so we don't need to plug it in, and it has continuous battery, and then we have a boom mic attached to the top of the camera going directly into the camera, so it just records the whole space.
We just boost the audio.
Well, I don't know. I think that people sleep on boom mics. Like editing the footage that we shot in Charlotte and stuff. Like I'm like, I want to stop using lavs.
I know. Fuck those labs.
Like-
They're like staticky.
I know, like-
So many
peaking.
problems
like-
today. So many problems.
I'm like, if you look at any type of Netflix series or special or anything, they're not using lavs. The only reason why we're using lavs is because that's what we use when we're in New York. Like, let's be honest. You know, it's like we're just comfortable with lavs, you know, but it's like, is that the best audio experience, you know, for the guests, like the talent and us? It's like, no. It's like when you get up to documentary level, they are like filming with boom mics, and like, it doesn't mean we have to have someone be holding a boom, but it's like we have that directional mic in this general area, and then it just picks up everything, you know, clean,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Even like multiple at different angles. Like, but yeah, having it hands free, super convenient.
because yeah, we could get different mics. Like we could get, I mean, just for like client projects, we should have one that's like super
Honestly, a
directional.
a boom mic for the presenters at Sandlot that we could mount from the side or something, like that would be nice.
Yeah,
because we run into
I
a lot
know.
of this wire. Like if we had a wired boom, that would be really nice because we run into so much issues with the wireless because it's live. But if we had a super solid audio
Wired.
source, because nobody else is talking
I know.
when the presenter's talking, it's a very small space. So like, that might be the move.
I know.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, they could just be wanting lavs because we've only given the option of lavs or.
Then there's like
handheld
a little
mics,
bit of
you know?
like mental prestige.
Yeah, I
when
know,
it
for
comes to
having-
labs. I
yeah,
don't know
no.
what it is.
Well,
like,
labs are like just a little bit like just more clear and more loud because they're just right by your mouth. And if
But-
you don't do the boom right, you can mess it up.
got it.
Like if you have it too quiet, or if you just use like a regular shotgun mic as a boom, like you need to use the right type of boom mic for the right situation. Like that's the thing about microphones. Like so many different types of mics for different purposes, and it's like trying to find the perfect match. But
Yeah.
I think definitely like making it as easy as possible is like a priority. But
Yeah. But yeah, we should definitely do that outdoor one.
yeah, even like a roadie pod, like just like the Alpine Loop one that we did a while ago. Like while we were driving around the Alpine
Yeah.
Loop, we did a pod. Like
But have video to it.
yeah, just like have a camera, but cause like yeah, driving in a car is like a perfect. We're already sitting there. We're usually talking anyway, you know.
Yeah, I like the idea of like campfires and road trips for podcasts, because if you look at that activity, podcast aside, those activities are really conducive for conversation. So like some of the best conversations that you have are like around a campfire or on a long road trip.
Yeah.
And so being able to just like naturally capture that is really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like they're very similar to podcasts because actually, like, was kind of talking to Kelly about this a little bit because we just did that insane, like, 5 national park road trip
Yeah.
for Thanksgiving. And so we spent, like, I don't know, 36 hours or something in the car, I don't know, whatever, and just talking so much. And it's definitely one of those environments that's because there's so much visual stimulation, and for the driver, like you're like physically, stimulated as well, that it lets your mind run a lot more freely than it normally does. Mm-hmm. Like when you're at work, you're focused on like a mental task normally. Like, so how do I do this faster? Even like with Instacart. There's a lot of just like you're mentally preoccupied. But when you're driving or when you're at a campfire, like these are moments where you have to you can't do too much mentally. Like, especially when you're on a road trip, like you can't be listening to a podcast and have a conversation with people in your car and like all these things. Like sometimes you need a little more focus. And so like, it's those times where you can have just hours and hours of conversations like a podcast, but the podcast is like framed to like, we're sitting down to have an hour, like hours long conversation. Mm-hmm. But with a road trip, it's like, it's the secondary action because the main thing is getting where you're going. And so the conversations sometimes like go crazy places, like a campfire where your mind's running a little bit more freely than it normally does. Because even now, we're like in this framework of like recording a podcast. But around a campfire, it can be way more natural because that's just like how you always talk around a campfire.
Yeah. I think like sleepovers, like when you're in like middle school, are also super conducive for conversations.
Goated.
But like, that'd be so funny to do like an adult sleepover. It's like a camera that's mounted on the ceiling facing down, and we're all just in our sleeping bags, staring.
Is that
up,
what camping is?
Staring up at
Adult sleepovers.
I guess so.
Retreats.
We could mount like a GoPro in a tent and just do it,
Bro, we gotta
camp out.
We gotta do some. I mean, it would be a lot cooler when a lot more people are watching this because we can like go do something and know that people are gonna watch it, But it'd be so cool to like hike up Timp, and then we're like we bring like a big tripod or like something that we can raise up like this camera with the wide angle and face it down so that we can lay down on the peak of Timp and it like captures the crest of Timp, and we're just like laying down looking up at the stars, and we have like one little like aperture ADD, like one of those small panel lights mounted on that whole rig that just lights us perfectly. Like, but it's like you can still tell that it's like dark out.
Yeah.
And to have like just one boom like down, so it's like it will get us perfectly, and it'd be crazy to just like capture natural conversations that we have with people up there, because like that's something that I always like about like certain things, like for instance, like I go to get water up at this spring up in Salt Lake, and I always like have interesting conversations with people when I'm there because it's like they're like-minded as me of like wanting to find good water and or like natural focus and like healthy and stuff, and like those people are like just kind of different than the average person. Like the average person doesn't really find the need to go out of their way to get fresh spring water. They're just like, I'm gonna use my tap water, whatever. And so like when you meet up at those spots, you like naturally just kick it like and hit it off for these people. It's like, or when we went to the golf store in LA, it's like you're immediately homies with everyone in that line because it's like you connect with them immediately. It's like a shared like reality that you're in.
Yeah, even at the MV3 event, like I was just talking to everybody, and everyone wanted to talk to me, and we all wanted to talk to each other, and it was like, oh, which character did you get? Oh, how many do you have? I got 6 of them. Oh, how long have you been? Blah, blah, or like, oh, Digital Jeff follows you. Like people like have, shared interests that like make them feel connected.
Yeah.
With each other. But it's interesting because I saw this guy on TikTok. I can't remember his name, and he was saying like one of his best travel tips is to stay in hostels because the people that you meet in the hostels are some of the most interesting travelers that are, if you go to a good hostel, like there's still like, one where you might get a finger pop in your asshole when
2
you
a.m.
fall asleep at 2 a.m. if you're not careful. But if you get like a right one, that like you can get one that you have even like a private room, but you're just sharing it with like he was saying like one was like pro surfers from Portugal that he like still stays in touch with. And then I think it was the same guy that did a similar video on this topic, but he was saying like if you want to meet more high tier people,
High
then,
status,
like join
top G's.
He said then join a tennis club. And he's like, because most of the people that are like actively into playing tennis are a different class of people, and it will take you into some really cool environments, like playing tennis in different places. You'll meet like really, really interesting people. I was like, wow, that is interesting. Like, even like imagine taking up something like fencing. What kind of fucker fences?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Of course he
does.
Of course he does. He looks like he's wearing a fencing mask with all that sunscreen on his face.
Okay, real quick. I wanna touch on that MV3 event a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
So for people that don't know, MV3 is like a NFT collective. But I personally, so I wanted to hear a little bit more about the event, but also personally for me, I want to know like why is Digital Jeff like a celebrity there?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I know him. He's the homie for sure. But like, how come in that environment? How come he's the celebrity?
Yeah. So, yeah, what's cool? There's a lot of history and context to this conversation because MV3 was created by Roberto Nixon, who Roberto's like honestly one of my favorite creators right now who's actively making content because his content is so high quality. So he's very educated and well researched about it, and he's very focused on a specific topic of like Web3 and technology. So like if you go to his page, there's a lot of really good content that he's been putting out, and Digital Jeff has been helping him out with that content. With like, they have a podcast where Jeff has been on a lot of the podcast episodes with Roberto. I mean, first off, like Roberto, he's like the cult leader, right? He's not actually a cult leader, but like
he's
everyone in the
Smith.
He's a yeah. You know Joseph Smith, right? Yeah, he's the Joseph Smith. Digital Jeff is Brigham Young. And yeah, he's the Joseph Smith.
I think
Digital
I
Jeff
get
is
it.
Hiram.
I get it. It makes sense.
And so they also have like a series because Digital Jeff was the co-creator of Leaders Create Leaders. That was a series he created with Gerard. And that was what we all kind of worked with Digital Jeff part of, was with Gerard. So what Jeff does is like, since he's the media genius, he attaches himself onto the dudes that want their own shows, but they can't get picked up by a big network. Just kidding. And, and then he helps them make them feel famous. Just kidding. Roberto's super dope. I'm just cracking jokes right now, my guys. But so they created like a YouTube series around MV3 that's called Doxed. You know what it means to be doxed?
Like exposed, like your address, your information.
Yeah. Like when someone gets doxed is like when they send the police to your house and swat your door or whatever. But also, just like being public and transparent, which I think was a really good move for them to make because the NFT space is super shady. And so if they're going to be coming out the gate and be like, my name is Purple Tiger 071, profile picture is a Bored Ape. Trust me, Instead, they're saying, no, these are our real names. This is our credibility on the line. These are the things that I've done. This is the portfolio of our whole team. This is our whole team's name. It's like they're extremely transparent, which is an extremely important part of like this really early era of Web3. And so Jeff is like the host of the Doxed series. I think they've only dropped maybe one or two episodes. Definitely watch the first episode to get an understanding of what MV3 is because they explain what everything is. And yeah, Jeff is like the narrator, so you hear his voice in it a lot. He's like the host of the show. And between that and being on the podcast, it's like everyone who's been following along the NFT journey with MV3, like, is like watching the episodes when they come out. So it's like within that community, everybody knew who Digital Jeff was.
Oh man, that's so crazy. Yeah.
And as soon as I see him, like, cause I'm like vlogging the experience. I'm gonna make a video about it, and then as soon as I see Jeff pull up, I'm like filming him from inside, filming him outside. He's got his like bag because he's coming straight from the airport. His camera in one hand, Gucci sunglasses. He's got a classic like Miami type of button-up shirt on with a couple buttons down, and like some white skinny jeans probably.
Yeah.
And
typical Miami.
Just looking super clean, and it's just so hilarious. Like, cause I got there, I was the first one at the event, cause I was 2 hours early. Because like we got back from the cruise at like 9 a.m. and then our flight was at 3 p.m. and I knew that the event was that day, but I didn't think it would be early enough for me to make it. But then I found out it was at like noon, and I was like, I could at least pop in and then just like dip. Mm-hmm. And so I got there 2 hours early. Nobody was even there. Talked to homie for a bit, then went and got some food and came back and just like was hanging out in there talking to some of the team members. They had like some cool like coffee table books, like this Takashi Murakami book that just like had a whole bunch of his artwork in it that I was just like flipping through, looking at. It's super cool. And they were playing like the World Cup soccer game. I was just kind of like small talking with the dudes that were there. And then they had like security guards and then like a rope, and they weren't letting people in. And then a big line started to form before they started to let people in. And so that was the moment when Jeff showed up, was once the line had already formed. And he just comes, he opens the door, and as soon as the door opens, you hear like multiple dudes call out like, "Hey, that's Digital Jeff! Yo, Digital Jeff!" You know, they're like so excited, and they start cheering for my mans. And it's just like the most glorious entrance moment ever. And I'm so glad that I captured it. Yeah. And he just comes, turns to the camera. I'm like, "Digital Jeff." He's like, "Hey." And then...
Did he know that you were going to be there?
Yeah, I texted him the night before.
Okay.
And I was like, "Yo, you in Miami?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm going to be there, but only for a short time. We got to sync up." And so, yeah, we made it happen. Super dope, because Jeff is just like good vibes, you know, like, and he's also just like super real and super caring, and he's not afraid to tell your brother you love them, you know, like. And
yo,
like,
I actually have to go pee so bad, so I'm gonna leave.
You need the podcast pisser.
Oh my gosh, honestly, I'm gonna leave on the wide. I'll be right back.
Dude, I saw a TikTok of a kid.
Oh, I sent it to you.
Oh, you sent it to me, and his chair had a hole in it in a bucket. And then there was like a vacuum hose.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm ready for the new Fortnite chapter."
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Miami is always super chill. Like, I wish I could have stayed longer. He was trying to convince me to stay, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, I could miss this flight, but also it was just like at the end of all of that traveling where I was like ready to be home, and I was also trying to just like mentally prepare for like flying to North Carolina, and then North Carolina, like we didn't have a direct flight, so I was like, I already knew this was gonna be a shit travel day from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So I was glad at least I got to like make it, talk to some of the dudes. I'm in the video, made it in the video. If you check out on the page. I don't think Roberto made it, which is all good, but I do want to see Roberto. Like, the events, like, that's probably like one of the things that really made me want to buy the NFT. Like, I think that the story thing is cool, but that's really like such a long-term play. Like, if you think about like within the Pokemon franchise, their most valuable character is like a Charizard Pokemon card. And when the cards first came out, that Charizard wasn't really worth any money. Like, I had a friend and his mom, like, he would keep his, like, legendary first edition cards, like, in a binder, and then his mom would keep it in her closet, and we'd have to ask her if we wanted to look at it. And then when we would look at them, she would be there overlooking our shoulders, making sure that we, like, kept it in the case.
She's, like, filming you guys just for evidence?
Like, there were some cards that we were allowed to play with, and then there were the cards that we had to ask her if we wanted to look at them. She probably still has those cards that are probably worth tens of thousands of dollars now. But, like, for that Charizard to get that collector's value took decades, right? So, like, for MV3 to turn into this really big franchise and to see success, and, like, for this profile picture to be worth some sort of desired value is not just going to happen in a year or two. I more so was like, damn, this is my ticket into the events. Yeah. This is like, I want to support the vision and show them, like, that I've been along for the ride from the beginning. And, like, but it's not something where it's like, all right, I'm going to spend my last $500 on this and hope that I'm going to 4X my income so I can pay rent next month.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right. But they had another event earlier in New York that they partnered up with Lyrical Lemonade. And I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is actually crazy. Like, Lyrical Lemonade is like the modern MTV, I feel like. Like, it's like the new MTV. MTV is like reality TV, but if you want to see the most cutting-edge new music videos, Lyrical Lemonade is always putting out, especially like these more on-the-come-up artists, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, Lyrical Lemonade was working with Yeet, Jack Harlow, The Kid Laroi, before they had their big hits. Like, he was part of what made them explode. Yeah. Or Lil Xan, you know, Lil Xan's biggest video was like a Lyrical Lemonade video that made him blow up.
The thing that I think we talked about this last episode, but the thing that I love about, like, where we are with, like, the internet and social media and stuff is that, like, you can pretty much do whatever you want as long as you, like, have the courage to just start it before you were making money. Like, he literally built can you keep it down over there? he literally built Lyrical Lemonade by, like, getting his camera out, which was probably like a Canon T3i or something really, like, minimal at first, and just going and finding the up and coming artists in the scene in Chicago, right? It was Chicago?
Yeah, he's from Chicago.
Yeah, so
he's from, like, right outside Chicago, but so Chicago.
He's just started, like, making videos for free for all the artists there, and then putting them up on Lyrical Lemonade.
It actually started as, like, a blog when he was in high school, where he just wanted to, like, write about artists. He wasn't even making music videos. And then his first big break was he booked Lil Uzi Vert before he blew up. And then Lil Uzi Vert blew up before the show happened. Because there's the period when you book him, and then there's the actual show. So he booked him at, like, a really good price before he was big. And then he got big, and then had the show, and it was a slam dunk. Yeah. And then now, Cole and Uzi are boys. They just had one of the biggest show of both their careers together, and they get to grow together. So, like, that's what's super cool about Cole Bennett is, like, he's just, like, super tight with all the artists. Like, has this, like, really great relationship with them as a director, which I think is, like, one of the most important parts of being a director. Yeah. Like, if you're disconnected from the talent, like, it's going to be able to show in the video that there's that disconnection. Mm-hmm. And also, if there's chemistry, you're going to feel that chemistry and be like, okay, you can tell, like, Yeet is getting comfortable, and Lil Yachty likes to be in front of the camera when Cole Bennett's on camera.
Mm-hmm. Behind, yeah. When
or,
Cole
like,
Bennett's
Trippie Redd. Like, you see Trippie Redd on Impulsive, he's like this. Yeah. You know? But then when you see Trippie Redd on another podcast where they're talking about anime, Which, because Trippie Redd is trying to reward the interviewer who's actually educated, who actually knows Trippie Redd's interests, versus like an interviewer that's just like,
they're just trying
what's
to
your favorite candy bar? Or like super stupid, uneducated questions.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that that's from the Logan Paul interview, because I don't remember any of his questions, but other good Trippie interviews I've seen, they're like very specific, asking him like specific questions about his favorite animes, or like that's something I really love about the channel Montreality.
Nardwar?
No.
Oh.
But Nardwar is from Montreal, I think.
Nardwar is also very good at asking questions. Like he's really, I feel like that's why people really love him. Like he's made a name for himself by digging for those like questions. He's Mike, what did you like? Your preschool teacher. You're like, how did you know that?
Yeah. Like, yeah, Montreality is like the interviewers off camera, and they'll like type the question, so you don't know who's interviewing, but they have a whole team, I think, because also something that's cool about Montreality that they started doing is like giving artists like a care package of like really cool, nostalgic, vintage stuff that's like, uniquely chosen that they think that artist would love. Like probably spent hundreds of dollars to just give this to the artist, but then that makes such a good video because the artist is like, yo, this is the coolest gift. Nardwar does that too. He's always coming through with the gifts, giving them a dope gift, and they're like, that's how they remember him. They're like, damn, that's like, they're always giving him props.
Yeah.
But yeah, Montreality interviewed Lil Peep before he passed away, and they even interviewed Peep's mom, and a bunch of great interviews. Like if you like artist interviews, definitely check out Montreality. Super creative. Like also their like animations that they use, and it's also like, like some interviews, like a GQ interview is like an interview for the masses. That's like, what's your 10 items in your pockets right now? Or like it's more kind of like general. Whereas like with like Montreality, they're asking very specific like cultural questions about like they're always like, what's your favorite cartoon character? Or like, I don't know. They always have like super good questions. But yeah, what were we talking about before I went on this Montreality tangent?
We're just talking about like lyrical limiting and stuff, but I wanted to say something about I was listening to a podcast with Wiz. It was like the playlist on Spotify called Rap Caviar. They made their own podcast from the same title, and one of the dudes from like Complex is the host of it. I forget his name, but he's like really in tune with like
Speedy Mormon.
I think it is him. Yeah, and
he's fire.
So he did an interview with Wiz, and Wiz, which Speedy is really good at asking good questions, and he was asking Wiz about like the era that he came up in was like the blog era, like the music blog era, and it like reminds me of, because like that was how like when I started to get into like that scene in like 2010 or 2009 2010 through this website called Good Music All Day, but it's definitely gone now, I think, because I mean maybe it is still around, but it was like something that I checked religiously every day, and I thought that was like a normal behavior. It's like
you check it for new drops.
Yeah, so it was like a blog, and it was essentially like just one single feed where like every day the feed would update with new songs that are out or like that have leaked, or like a mixtape, like a Mac Miller mixtape that like leaked, with the whole thing would be up there. Download the zip, like it would just be, you could download every song there, and it was just kind of this like underground like scene of like just sharing music. Like and people,
you wouldn't stream it on the website. You
could
would download the music. Oh, you could also stream it?
Yeah.
Like, could you make, like, a playlist and listen to it?
There was no, like, account.
Just the individual song you could, like, play it.
It was just, like, a static web page you could scroll and, like, it would just be, like, blog. Like, it wasn't even, like, a blog. It was just, like, post like of like it was almost like a Twitter feed type thing, like that just had these big block sections of like
Like a forum, or could
no,
you not post on
you
it?
couldn't. I don't think you could post on it, but like it was so crazy because it was like Mac Miller would be on there, Wiz, but then they would also like drop like a Bruno Mars track. Like I remember, and like they would come out way early. Like I remember Bruno Mars, "Just the Way You Are." I heard that song literally a year and a half before it came out, and I
Damn,
remember
so you were already sick of it.
yeah. Yeah, no, I like remember playing it for like one of my cousins and being like, I guarantee you this song's gonna blow up in a little bit. Like it's just like regardless of what you think of Bruno Mars, when you hear that track, you're like,
yeah.
oh, that's a radio hit for sure.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I played it for her and I was like, this is for sure gonna blow up. And it was like a year and a half went by and then it's like hit the radio and it's like all over. And it's like but like that era of like discovering music, I feel like is lost because it's like Spotify and Apple Music and all this stuff. Like, it doesn't really. I mean, maybe they still are like out there, you know, like different Reddit communities and stuff. But like, that was my only source of finding music was through that website and like SoundCloud, like stuff like that.
I feel like people don't use SoundCloud for like discovery, but it's where you go to like search for like the artist, if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't just like be scrolling through SoundCloud and then just discover a new artist. I'd have to know what I'm searching for. Like I'd have to like find the artist from like TikTok and then search them on SoundCloud. But it's like I would find them on SoundCloud, but I wouldn't like discover them on SoundCloud's Explore. But I feel like that's where old SoundCloud and new SoundCloud is different. Like old SoundCloud, people would actually get discovered on SoundCloud, or like songs would go viral on SoundCloud. But I feel like that doesn't really happen as much anymore. It's like you go viral on like TikTok or social media, and then they can come to your SoundCloud link.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like thinking about like, cause like I remember like when like you got into music and stuff like from making music, and we were just talking about music, and I was like I feel like I've never like been into music, you know, like whatever. I didn't consider myself to be like a musical person, you know, but like you pointed out that like I actually have a lot of background in like discovering music and things like that, and it's like definitely can see it now that I look back. So there's like a lot of different YouTube channels as well, like Majestic Casual. I don't know if you ever heard that. Heard that one. And then like, but even before that, I remember I was really into like dubstep, and there was one called like UKF Dubstep that like would just drop these like it would like curate. It was all like curation. Same thing with like Majestic Casual. Like it was just like a music like share page, you know, where they curate different artists and stuff and put up songs. And like then I would just rip that song from YouTube to MP3 and then put it on my iPod, and it was like, but I love like that style of finding music because it's so like what Joe K calls like digging. Like you got to dig to find a like a gem, and like
work for it.
Like, and you got to like know where to go, and you got to like go to this artist and go to their likes to find a gem. You know, it's like that's how you find those like really like underground sounds, you know, and you don't really just find that by going to like a Spotify, discover whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
dude, something that's interesting about what you were saying about like identifying as like a musical person, like that I've thought about before is like, just because at certain times of our life, we didn't identify a certain way doesn't mean that we weren't that thing. You know, like when I was identifying as a photographer, I was also a musician and a guitarist.
Yeah.
And a violinist. I just didn't identify by those things.
You just didn't like notice it.
But like in the like especially like, you know, becoming an artist, you know, you may not always look at yourself and be like, I'm an artist. You know, it feels weird calling yourself an artist sometimes. But then like when you grow into it and like start to feel like an artist, you realize that you've been an artist the whole time, even though you haven't necessarily personally even realized. And that's where self-realization is so powerful. Like when people have those moments of realization of their reality and what they want, then it's like you're going down with more certainty down a path of like, imagine like, you know, trying to learn an instrument or become an artist, but kind of passively without identifying as an artist, versus being like, wait a minute, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm actually really good. Then the stuff you start to make once you realize how fucking good you are. And it's really interesting, like, because it talks about the same subject in the Book of Five Rings by a samurai named I'm slaughtering his name right now because I always forget it, but it's the Book of Five Rings, and he's like the most like legendary samurai in ancient Japanese history. And he's like killed over 60 enemies in battle, and he would fight with his signature style was fighting with 2 swords, and he would fight from the age, first time he killed someone he was 13 years old, and he would fight from the age of 13 to 28, just like being really good. He didn't even realize he was really good. Then when he had this moment of self-realization, he started to like reflect on his life, and he didn't even understand why he was so skilled. He was just so in touch with the spirit of being a samurai that he was just so good without even consciously being aware of how good he was. And then he was trying to like continually study and learn from the things that he's already known his whole life. But after a moment of self-realization of like, holy cow, I'm the best samurai in all of Japan. You know, he would go into battles with a wood sword, beat his enemies with a fucking wood sword, and they all were using metal swords. So my guy at the end of his life just dips into this cave, writes this book, and this is the Book of Five Rings. And I found out about it through Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan has a tattoo of him on his arm, and said that book changed his life when he read it as a kid. And a lot of it talks about like a swordsman's strategy, like as like a samurai and like actual swordsmanship, and like being a martialist and like martial arts. And it's super interesting because he says like the best way to become a better swordsman is by learning other arts. So he says to become a better swordsman, learn to play the guitar.
I think I know where you're going with
like
this.
that's super, because he says if you're just narrow focused on just swords, like, and the mindset of a samurai is to be like constantly learning,
Dude,
constantly improving,
so
constant growth.
What? Correct me if I'm wrong. So this, I think that like the quote that I also heard from Joe about this book is that he said, like when you can like learn one thing, you see it in everything or something.
That
like,
definitely sounds like something from this book.
And I feel like that's super true. Like because like when you learn something, it's like those things that you learn in like photography aren't just applicable to photography. You can take it into other mediums, like you know, or even just like video editing and music production. It's like when I'm like making a video and I'm like, I've learned over the years it's better to fade out your titles at the end than just like cut them. It's like the same thing sometimes in music. It's better to fade it out than it is to like abruptly end it or something. It's like whereas one thing it's like a visual editing, but you apply that same thing to a music editing and it's like still works, you know? Or like
you may not even necessarily know what it is about learning this thing that makes you better at another thing, but it still will have that effect, you know? Like for example, I've always had really good hand-eye coordination, but it's like no shit, because I played the violin and the guitar and do all these things that require like having a lot of hand-eye coordination, and it carries over into the rest of my life, into other things that I may do, or even just like your perspective in general is like shaped by all the knowledge that you learn. And yeah, the book is just full of bangers. It's broken into sections. It's like the earth book, the water book, the fire book, the air book, and then the book of nothingness is the last book. And the first book is the earth book that talks about the foundations of strategy, overall strategy, just about like the samurai way. It keeps talking about the way in this book. And it's like the way of being, like how you should be. Mm-hmm. And because I've just been on this like Eastern philosophical kick the last like 6 months, like getting the Art of War, this one, and then my next book is the autobiography of a yogi. Is the next one after I finish the Book of Five Rings.
I haven't read that, but it seems like it's a really dense book. It's gonna be hard to.
Definitely, it's the one that Steve Jobs recommends.
Yeah,
that's the what made me want to get onto it, but also like just understanding more about this like Buddhist way of living. And the Book of Five Rings isn't Buddhist. He says he wasn't Buddhist, but he knows the tenets of Buddhism and of Confucianism and Taoism, and applies those lessons into some of his principles. So like the Book of Earth is like all about this base strategy that's about like, you know, the samurai's instrument and his sword and all this stuff. And then the Book of Water is about movements and maneuvers or something. Then the Book of Fire is about attacks and like fighting, because also a lot of this is like the way of the warrior, but it builds on top of each other. So you don't just go to the fire without the understanding of the water and the earth. They're like layers that you learn on. And then the Book of Air, I can't remember exactly, but so it's super interesting how it's formatted, and it's a super short book, but also there's like a lot more learning just on like the life of the samurai. Like his name's like Miyamoto Musashi. I just want to make sure I get his name right. Someone's screaming at me right now because it's Musashi Miyamoto. I'm sorry, guys. He's a legend. Like, I've been super inspired. I love the energy of a samurai. Because also on my flight, I watched this movie called The Bullet Train with like Brad Pitt.
Oh yeah.
Where he's on the bullet train in Japan, and there's like, you know, all this conflict, whatever, samurais and all this shit, cutting people's heads off with swords or whatever, and something is just so savage about the quietest dude in the room that's sitting there with his robe, not saying anything, is way scarier than your opponent that is puffing his chest and talking all this crap and whatever. Like, it's just so badass. Like, the reverence and the respect of like, even like, I just really would love to get into martial arts and jujitsu and becoming a black belt. And I was like researching like, what does it take to become a black belt in jujitsu? And I didn't even realize it takes about 10 years.
Yeah, it's not an easy task.
And it's 10 years of 3 hours on the mat per week. That's like 3 days a week for an hour per day. Because a big part of what like ranks you up is how many hours you spend on the mat, which that makes sense. Like, if you want to become a black belt, you have to like put in the hours. It's not just like you learn, you take a test. And that's another thing that it talks about in the Book of Five Rings is like, there's a difference between knowing like what to do and actually doing it. And like, that's one of the problems he has with teachers is like, people will try and teach you when they themselves haven't learned everything that there is to learn. And instead, like, learning from the spirit of the thing by doing it and by like training and by practice and exercise. Like, if you really want to learn how to do jujitsu, you could watch YouTube videos all day, but until you're sweaty rolling around on the mat with a 45-year-old dude popping his thumb up your butt, you can't learn what that maneuver is called.
Yeah.
Just kidding. There's no fingers in the butts, I would hope. I don't know, Joe Rogan. Let me know. Has that ever happened to you?
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments below, chat, if Joe Rogan's ever gotten a thumb popped up his butthole once.
I've definitely felt drawn to jiu-jitsu, but it's like I'm just like don't know if I have the time for it. It just this sounds so like bad to say because I never want to be that person that's like I don't have the time, you know. But it's like like if I do it, I want to like really like go in on it, you know, and
It's like a commitment.
Yeah, commitment. I mean, like it could be. I mean, it's something that I want to do definitely like before I die, you know. And I feel like now is the best time because it's like approaching like 30. I feel like that's like a good time to start, so that when I'm 40, I'm like pretty established in it, you know.
Because yeah, you can move through the ranks faster or slower, even depending on like how early you start. Yeah. Like someone who starts as a child becomes a black belt much faster. Because I remember my cousin Justin, he became a black belt when he was like 12 years old or something. And it was like, I think it was in karate. It wasn't in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, holy crap. But when you're going to the gym on a regular basis, it's easier to put in those repetitions as a kid. Like, bro, when I have kids, I'm for sure going to put them through a martial arts school and force them to do it as children. Mm-hmm. Because even like with music, bro, if it was left to my own decision to practice or not, my ass did not want to practice. But because my mom was always on my ass and being like, did you practice today? You need to practice before you go do this. And like making me practice, like I would actually practice. And surely enough, after 10 years of that, you retain the information. And as an adult, putting in that 10 years, so much harder to remember that. Like, you just remembering anything as an adult is harder than remembering something as a kid. Like, 12-year-old Mike, you tell me once, and I'm like, I'm never forgetting this. Now I'm like, you tell me, I'm like, what's your name again? You're like, bro, we've been friends since first grade. Yeah. But, maybe let's go into a little segment here. Also, we may have a surprise guest pulling up sometime. I don't know if...
No.
Oh, he's not going to pull up. Okay.
Just no. Just no.
Okay, that's all right.
That's all right.
We'll save it for a future.
It probably would have been... Like, we would have had to go another hour and a half when he got here, you know? Just to...
Yeah, he ended up actually having a conflicting... something, but he does want to come back, so yeah, we'll definitely get it.
It'll be a cool episode. Yeah, I'll keep that guy for myself.
All right, I found a place in Orem that we can go start doing.
Dude, if we jiu-jitsu, there's one over here, and up in West Jordan where I lived before, there was like one of the best ones in Utah. Was like down the road, but it would be sick to if we all started it sometime within the next year or two.
If we all started at like the same time at the same place.
Oh yeah.
Because like we're starting at different like I feel like we're all like different like body types and stuff. And so it would be interesting to see like how we could learn together the different benefits of each, you know, and like working off of each other. Like I don't know, I feel like maybe like I'm sure it would go away, but like a little weird, like wrestling up with somebody, like I don't know, but like if it was one of you guys, it's like, oh, let's like see what we can do, like
for sure,
like let's just see what we can do as humans, you know.
Yeah,
I think that doing it, like one of the benefits of it, I'm guessing, is like an increased self-confidence that is so like grounded in reality, like because I feel like as guys, like I'm curious what you guys think, but it's like as guys, I feel like when we're in a setting with a bunch of people and a bunch of guys, it's like we like to like puff our chests a lot, like even if we're not trying to, because like we want to appear like we can at least like hold our own around the setting, you know? And it's like I feel like if you know deep down that you can't like take on any of these people, you like do a lot of different weird micro behaviors to joust for like position. But like the ones that know like if you have like if Joe Rogan is in here,
Straight to the
it's
pose,
like
you know.
he knows that he could literally like take us down to the ground and choke us out if it escalates to any sort of
Pop
level.
a thumb.
And so he's not afraid, like what that manifests like in like reality is like he's not afraid to like state a hot take or a hard opinion that he has because he's not worried about someone being like, dude, what are you saying? You know, like all this stuff, because it's like if it escalates to a physical thing, he's like, whoa, buddy, like, you know, when you know that you can be relaxed under severe like stress, you are actually way more chill because you know, like, you're not worried about it getting to that level because you're like chill, you know.
That is honestly so true, and like that connects pretty like heavily back to some like a connection I made today at Sandlot. Like Dave and Casey, those guys make so much money, like more than anybody that's listening to this,
Right.
you know. And their confidence,
All 7 of you out there.
they're
Flexing on you, mom.
they're so calm.
Yeah.
They're so calm. It's unbelievable because I'm like, they know, they know,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, that equates to like everything. You know, you see people trying to prove that they're a certain way on social media or, you know, anything. People who are trying to be something they're not, like it's very apparent to the people who know that.
Right.
And it's the same with people who are skilled when it comes to martial arts and like physicalness, knowing like you could overpower anyone, like you're going to be the calmest in the room.
Yeah.
And if you're the most wealthy, you're probably showing it the least. Mm-hmm. And if you Casey's always rocking them Travis Scott's, but like Dave, he's never wearing anything.
Yeah.
He's never wearing
naked
any
at the shoot.
He's in his boxers every time.
He's never wearing like any designer clothes.
Yeah.
Like he's not flexing on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows that
He
he's
doesn't
got.
need to.
He
He
knows.
doesn't need
Yeah.
to
He
show
knows
it.
he's secure.
Yeah.
He knows he's like his money's fine.
Yeah.
So he's not trying to prove that to anyone.
Right.
And that's the same thing on like the alpha
Yeah.
thing, where like if you are trying to always prove that you're the alpha male, you're the loudest, you're the coolest, you're probably the most insecure. You're
Right.
probably like the guy who's thinking the most about it.
Yeah.
And that's why you have this extra like need to be the center of attention,
to
because
share it so much.
yeah, because like what you feed off of is getting the eyes of the other guy's girlfriend for a second by being ridiculous, you know, but like the other guy, that's his girlfriend, he's going home with her, you know, like
Yeah.
he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like when
And
you're really secure, it's apparent. And when you're not insecure, it's apparent to those who are secure, you know, and that's, I think, something that a lot of people don't analyze about themselves.
This like True and I were kind of talking about this the other day, and it talks about this in the Book of Five Rings of saying how if you don't believe it yourself, that's when you're fronting. But like the true like samurai, like the Dave and the Casey, they actually believe it in their core, you know, because they have the experience to make them believe. Like the fighter that's gonna, you know, win, the boxer, like he believes he's not lying even to himself, because that's where people go wrong, is they'll lie to themselves and say, I can do this, but then they're shaking in their boots. You don't believe that though. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Versus like when you truly believe it to your core because you put in the work and the training to understand, you have the respect with your instruments to sharpen your sword and not let it go dull, because you have that same amount of mutual respect for your instrument that you have for life and for your battle and your opponents. And like what True and I were saying was like, if you want people to believe in you, you have to be speaking the truth. You can maybe finesse some people and make them believe you if you're not telling the truth. And that's like scammers, pump and dumps, or like people like finessers that like get you to buy into something and then they're maybe lying. But it like something like what MV3 with Roberto, if he didn't believe in what he's building, you'd be able to smell it and they wouldn't get as far as they're getting. He's not like, that's where it's like a pump and dump is a quick like, trust me, believe me, buy the drop, sell it
Yeah.
out. And then he sells and cashes out and fucks everyone over.
Yeah.
Versus like Roberto's in this for like the 10-year,
Yeah.
20-year, multi-decade vision. And he's like truly believes, and he's speaking from a place of truth and realness and passion. And he believes himself. He's saying what he believes. And so people share those aligned beliefs. People that also believe in Web3 and NFTs and crypto,
Yeah.
they're like, let me align with this guy, not because I trust Roberto and he's the gatekeeper. No, but not because Roberto said, hey, man, take my word for it, man. This shit's going to go to the moon, man. Dogecoin, man. But because, like, he can logically explain and show you like the bigger vision of what he's going towards.
Well, I feel like, I don't know where I heard this. I think it was like an artist. Let's just say it was an artist, like someone like Drake. Let's just say that. They were saying like, I didn't believe in myself, but I believed that he believed in me. And like, so it's like people like, so it's like, I don't like, I may not believe in myself, but these 5 people around me, they believe in me. And so I can, like, I trust their opinion. So it gets back to me believing in me because everyone else believed in me. And what I'm trying to say here is like, Roberto believes 100% in the crypto community, in Web3. And so the people around him, like the people that come across MB3, they're like, they may not be 100% bought in right away when they see it, but like they're like, oh, I see this guy's putting it all on the line for this project. I'm gonna.
Other people believe in him so much.
Like I believe, I trust him, and I believe that he believes what he's talking about. So I'm gonna follow along for the journey, and I'm gonna be involved. You know, but if Roberto didn't actually care about Web3 and he didn't do all that stuff, I doubt he would have half of the following that he does because people would be able to see right through that, you know?
Dude, something that like everybody talks about believing in God, right? But nobody's talking about God believing in you. Thinking of God believing in me.
It's Sunday,
God believes in me.
Sunday school.
Like, it's like believing in yourself, like, because when you first said that first thing, I thought the approach you were going to take was like, maybe if you don't believe in yourself right now, your higher version of yourself, your future you, does believe in the you right now. Like, even if like you're maybe in a place where you feel very weak and like you can't do it, like, think of future you looking back at yourself right now and think, I may not believe in myself right now, but the me in the future that has the office, that has the team, that has all the things that we're working towards, that has, let's assume we did achieve these landmarks, he does believe in the me right now that has nothing, like, to go and do and make something out of whatever it is that we want to do. And like, it's like, I just love thinking of the concept of God outside of a religious perspective has been so powerful for me. And especially seeing God in other cultures, because we're traditionally taught before the internet to kind of stay within our culture. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been very normal for people to be able to explore and learn from all over the world unless you had tons of money. But now the access is getting so much greater for people to be able to learn about a thing or two from anything, like any other culture that, like, there's so much knowledge out there that we don't even understand.
I feel like what's happening with like the internet is like, it's like before, like hundreds of years ago, it's like everyone fought about their religions because they only like were aware of their own religion and heard a watered down approach through the grapevine of the next country over or whatever. But now it's like with the internet and being a more like globalized like planet and society, we're like becoming more aware of different cultures and different religions and beliefs. And I feel like in some sense we're all understanding that we're all one and the same. And like there's a thread of truth that is running through every religion.
Yeah.
And even science, like when science talks about, different like realities or dimensions, like that was something that like just I was saying on Fortnite to you guys, like the last month someone won a Nobel Prize for proving that this like dimension that we're in of space and time isn't the fundamental reality, and that there's realities and dimensions beyond that. And I feel like that like clicked for me. It's like then that kind of confirms to me that there is like some sort of spiritual realm in some sense, that there is like something beyond. I mean, I already believe that, but having like science kind of like confirm that is interesting, because it's like I go back to the stuff of like manifestation and like your thoughts have power and your all that stuff, like your vibration and your state has power. Like when you believe 100% that this is all there is, this reality, this 3D world of just carbon and stuff, like you, then all of the magic of life goes away because you're like, this is it, And when I say that, I don't mean that you have to accept a religion, I feel like when people hear that, it's like they think I'm going God mode, whatever. But it's like, I feel like you just have to accept the magic of life and the spiritual aspect of life, different,
like the metaphysical
side of things. And because like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, even like if we think of like beyond spirituality, something that always fucks me up when I think about is how much of reality around us we're not even perceiving.
Yeah.
Because, and it when you look at our bodies, it's very easy to look at our bodies like technology because our senses are so limited. It's like old technology. Well, not old necessarily. It's still pretty good. But like our eyes are only seeing within a certain range. Our ears are only hearing within a certain range. Our smells, like Millie has way better smell than me to a point that I can't even comprehend how she's using smell to navigate even better than like her ears would navigate. Or animals, especially like aquatic animals like dolphins and whales that communicate using frequencies, and like their perception of reality is completely different, but they still have a reality to their perception.
Yeah.
That's just different,
That's what that's what they were saying in this like study or whatever, is like this reality that we see as humans is simply like a evolution of like where we came from as an organism. Like what we see is there for our survival as humans, but like Millie as a dog sees a different reality because it's like better for her survival to see, or like to like, again, it's like so hard to like understand. Like does she see like a smell trail and follows that smell trail? Like it's like we have no idea what like is even like go, like if you could jump in the behind the seat of Millie's eyes, what does she see? How different is it from what you see out of your eyeballs? It's like just so trippy to, but like all of the differences are because of like it was advantageous for dogs to see reality in that way versus humans versus dolphins, but like, and it's so weird to like, because as humans we think that our reality is like the true reality because it's like we have an ego and we just think that we're way better, but let's like there's no reality that's better or worse than, it's just like more of the how much of the true spectrum are we seeing. We're only seeing this like small sliver. Maybe dolphins are seeing 50% of it and we just don't know,
I just feel like humans want to know or just feel like they know. And so we come to decisions before we may actually know the truth that becomes a relative truth for a period of time until a new discovery outdates that old belief. But then it's like until that new discovery, we're just believing what we're told because people don't want to just accept that we don't know. Like, it's a much scarier thought to just say, we're just these monkeys on this floating rock and the earth could fucking explode any day now.
Yeah.
Like, we would rather say, no, I know that I was in heaven before this, and then I went through the veil and I forgot everything, and then I'm here to be tested, and I'm supposed to do all this and this and this, and I know where to find all the answers in this one book, and it's the only book I need to read. I don't need to read any other books. This book is going to have all the answers for me. Even though I don't even understand half of what I'm reading, this is somehow supposed to be the answer for me. Like, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues into a tweet.
Let's get
Explain that tweet. Let's see.
Is it me or Adam?
It's you. Actually, it's not even the one that's about comfort, so that segue is kind of a fail because it said the first one, comfortability will rob you of your true potential. It's crazy, like how deceptive comfort is, because it makes me think of David Goggins, and he's always talking about literally doing the uncomfortable thing. Like, in one of his Joe Rogans, he's like, 3 a.m., it's snowing outside. He's saying, I should go running.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
When it's the most uncomfortable is when he's going at it. And then when he's running, he's saying, gotcha, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
I'm stronger. I'm doing this. Like, versus that feeling of, like, being a bitch.
Yeah.
I just love that, like,
Yeah. I think
perspective.
Like, a lot of people take that to the extreme in the sense of, like, because there's a whole culture right now of people that are, like, doing cold plunges and shit, like, and, like, thinking that that's going to make them be a better, like, father or something. And it's, like, it doesn't always, like, equate, you know? It's, like, you doing cold plunges just makes you better at doing cold plunges, you know? Or, like, running 40 miles didn't necessarily equate to me being a better, like, boyfriend, you know? But a lot of people, like, fall into that trap of, like just doing hard shit for hard shit, you know? And, like, I think it's, like, you have to do the hard shit in, like, the space that you're in. Like if you want to be, like, a world class runner, then yeah, go bust out, like, 3 a.m. runs and, like, do that. But, like, if you're trying to, like, make it in the music industry, then it's, like, what's the hardest thing that you can possibly do? It's, like, driving across the country and, like, posting up outside, like, Drake's studio and asking him for some studio time, or, like, what's, like, the most outlandish, like, thing that you can do in your space, and then strap on that alter ego of Goggins mentality and be like, no, this is what I do now. Like, I show up at people's studios, you know?
Yeah.
Like, or, like, just work ethic of, like, if you are a producer, like, strictly, or, like, an artist in the studio, like, I sleep here now. Like, it's like, you know, get rid of your apartment, like, live at your studio if you're really about it. Like just produce music all the time and send it out to everyone. Like, go Goggins mode on that thing, you know? But, like, because I've fallen into that, like, trap of, like, getting that mindset and applying it to areas that, like, are just so separate from what I actually want to do, you know? And it takes away from what I want to do, you know? Because it's like you're going Goggins mode on something that isn't, like, what you actually want to do. You're just falling into the, like, you want to be Goggins now, you know? It's like, but learn what you can from him and apply it to your lane, you know?
Yeah, because something that I like that he says is, like, it's either his goal was either practice without purpose or, like, the process without purpose, meaning, like, most people will, like, set a benchmark goal that's like, I want to run a 10K, and then they reach that goal and then they want to, like, reward themselves, and they usually stop. But he was like, I wanted to run 6 miles a day, 5 days a week without any tangible goal, and, like, I wanted to just be the person that does that without even needing a purpose. It's, like, so cool, because, like, that's, like, the opposite of what people say.
Yeah.
They're usually saying, like, oh yeah, find that purpose, set that big goal to run a marathon, and go run that marathon. but it's like, I feel like as much as it can excel you in the short term, it can also, you know, burn you out, or like it can stop you because you're like, oh, I hit the goal. Now what? And that versus like when you don't even need the goal. You're just literally doing it because you fucking love that
It has
shit.
to be an identity change. If I can quote Atomic Habits by James Clear, he says like you have to, like, if you want to run more, you have to, instead of trying to like build these habits of running and stuff, you have to like become a runner. You have to become the person that runs. Like your identity has to change. Of like when people are talking to you, they're like, you know, who is Mike Ritchie? You're like, I'm an artist. You know, I got a dog and I'm a runner. You know, it's like, it's something that is an identity of you. And that's when it becomes real. Like anything else is like, you're playing that game of like pretending, you know, like puffing up your chest, trying to do something that you're not, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when it's like unsustainable, because you're trying to like always have a 5K in front of you as a carrot on the stick to keep you going and moving and like forcing yourself to do this thing. But like when you just like get into that mindset of like, this is who I am now, you don't have to like do these little mental tricks for you to like run. It's something that you want to do. Yeah. And something I was thinking about the other day is like, if you like a trick for habit change, I feel like, or identity change, like, you know, for a fact that like whatever you're doing in your life, it's like most likely you enjoy it. You know, like you making music, it's like you enjoy making music. At one point, like when you started playing like and making beats and stuff, like you didn't necessarily enjoy it. It was like maybe something that you had to like train into yourself.
You had to practice.
So like a way to like fast track that, and it may sound oversimplistic, the way to fast track that is to, when you start something new, is like look for things that are enjoyable. Look for things in that activity that you love. You know, like running sucked for me at first, but then it's like once I started doing it, a few months in, I'm like, wow, I really like when I'm running for hours, there's a space that opens up in my mind where it's like mental clarity. Like, cause it's like when you're doing a road trip or you're at a campfire, it's what you're saying. It's like, you're doing that thing, like you're literally running and now your mind is like just wandering, and it creates so much like peace of mind because it doesn't have anything else to do other than just hang out with you on this 2-hour run.
Yeah.
And if I could, on day one of running, understand that, I would have loved running a lot faster, like, and gotten it to be an identity change a lot quicker. And so if you can, like, when you start a new activity, like if we do a martial art, like on day one, be searching for the things that are dope about this thing. Don't be paying attention to the things that suck. Like, don't be like, oh, it sucks when I'm getting choked out. It's like, eventually you're going to forget all of that stuff that sucks, and you're only going to remember the things that you love about it, and it's going to be something that you want to do. And so, like, going into any activity, like, just be proactively searching for, like, what can I love about this thing? The more you fall in love with that thing, like, the more it's going to become a state change. It's going to be part of you, you know?
Yeah, I feel like the hardest part about that is knowing when you're lying to yourself and genuinely loving something. Like, if I was lying to myself about loving to make music, then I would get like a couple beats in and not be able to push through that hurdle. But because I actually loved making music, it pushed me through. It's like what we were talking about the other day of like, you know, doing something that your heart's not in. And not being able to push yourself to do it if you don't fucking even care about it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you genuinely feel like that, then maybe that's not for you.
Yeah.
Because someone out there loves that and is running laps around you. Like, even like getting into martial arts, most people never even get in the door. That's the hardest part. But for us, you know, we've been to Japan and Korea and are curious about philosophy and learning and studying these cultures and have all these experiences that make us want to get in the room that is already one step beyond someone who's like being dragged and forced to be in there and doesn't care about learning and is just showing up just to show up. And as soon as the clock is up, they're out of there. And they do that for years. They're going to get very, very little growth. versus the one that really wants to be in there, is really giving it their all to learn and is like cares about it, is gonna grow a lot faster.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. Like I feel like something that I'm just learning right now in like relationships, like long-term relationships, is you like have to date that person every day, you know? And that applies to like everything that you're doing in your life, like your business or your hobbies. You have to like date your hobbies and all. Like you have to constantly be choosing to fall in love with this thing, or else it gets stale, you know? And like if you get to a point in your life where you're like you fall out of the habit of reading or something, and you find yourself like trying to like force yourself to read, you know, you got like you have a candy bar waiting for you after the book, and all you're doing all this mental gymnastics to get you to read a book. It's like, dog, maybe you don't want to read. That's
or maybe like, that's the wrong book.
Yeah, it's like maybe like that's fine. Like don't force yourself to do that thing. Just but like
find the right thing for you.
Yeah,
it's like everybody, it's different things that we're all gonna be drawn to differently, and like that's the beauty of life.
Yeah,
like all these different interests and like being able to have disagreements and differing opinions like is a beautiful thing. Like I'm glad we don't live in a place where we're all forced to think the same.
Yeah,
like North Korea.
Yeah.
And if you come out of the box just a little bit, then you're getting plucked out of the crowd, like, or whatever. You're going to concentration camps with your grandma.
I was thinking about this other day that like I'm really like stoked that all of us have our own like styles. Like like I was just like driving back from doing Instacart, and I'm like, it's so dope that like, cause like you and Adam, even though you guys like grew up with each other, I'm like, you guys have such distinct different styles. Like totally. Adam, you got like the rings, and like I feel like you can like rock the tucked in t-shirt and like shit, and like not that you can't, but it's like
but I don't. No, I don't tuck my shirt in.
like just like the wife beater and like the shit like that, and it's like, and like my style's different, obviously too. It's like it would just be such a shame if like me and Adam were just like followers of you, and just oh Mike's wearing a bucket hat, we go out and get a bucket hat too. It's like we're so different, and that's what makes us dope, you know.
Like we're influenced by different things, like. Because, even, like, I feel like Adam's style, it feels very, like, it has a lot of, like, East Coast influence or city-type influence, or, like, it's very, like...
very grungy.
And detailed and distressed. Like,
Sailor Jerry.
You were doing the distressed clothing before Kanye was. And, like, I feel like my style comes from a very, like, you know, California beach town... kind of like I love like comfortable clothing, like loose pants and slides, or like and then Truman, yours is like, I feel like I would say you probably have the most masculine style out of us, like in terms of like
Facts.
The flannel and like the mustache, and like your look is very masculine, but also just like
I feel like
traditional almost, or like
the classic like American.
Like you'll just wear like some
farmer
Converse or like some Chelsea boots, and like you don't have any like fancy bells and whistles. It's like the essentials and the classics, and like it's like classic Truman.
It is really weird because I feel like it's like I've found my style, and it's like because we all go through those phases of like growing up where you're like wearing certain clothes, and it sucks when you don't feel like you have like a style, and you're just like when people's style is like when your style is like based off of one store, and like you only hit up that store, like when people are like only wearing American Eagle in like middle school, it's like their personality is American Eagle.
That was me.
You know, it's like
Hollister. Like you with Vans.
Yeah, but it feels really good when you like reach a point where you're like comfortable with the clothes that you wear and stuff, like where you feel like it matches your personality, you know.
Yeah, even like I love seeing someone's style throughout multiple outfits, but it's still that person's style. Like seeing Adam go from, you know, like the pearl necklace and the chains with the wife beater tucked in, and like no hat with the clean cut and the nice beard. Like that's signature Adam style. But like so is the hoodie with all the patches and the Jordan 1s, and like it's like our characters have like the multiple different outfits.
Skins.
But like one of my favorite things about like that kind of made me want to become like a designer, like because like designing is more than just like designing products. It's like designing your own life. Like I'm designing Mike Ritchie and how Mike Ritchie lives and what values Mike Ritchie lives by and what type of person and attitude Mike Ritchie has, and like it's just like I love like the uniqueness and like making it your own. Like when someone can say like, yo, Mike, that looks like a classic Mike outfit, but it's like a hoodie that I designed. It's one of my own hoodies. Or like some of my favorite designers, when we were in the airport on the way to Miami, I saw one of my favorite designers, and he just went by so quick, and I saw him, and then I'm going down, and there were so many people there, and I was afterwards, I'm like, fuck, I should have like said what up to him. And his name is Salehi Bembury, and he did this collab with Crocs, that the Crocs look like a fingerprint pattern type all over them.
I've seen those, yeah.
And he also collabed with New Balance on like a pair of New Balance shoes. And he's kind of like, I kind of look at him like modern Virgil Abloh. Like he gives me like 2016 Virgil Abloh vibes before Off-White. Like when Virgil was like Pyrex was his company. And before he got the recognition, like when he was just like a DJ, and like Virgil was exploring all these different crafts. He was an architect, like studied architecture in school. And then, yeah, music was a huge passion of his. And then, of course, fashion design, being the creative director of Louis Vuitton, interning with Kanye West, like doing all these things. Like, yeah, this guy, Salehi Bembury, definitely look him up. He's got like, just like super unique style. Even just like the way that he dresses, aside from his designs, he's like a person that you can tell has style. And I'm like, that was always my philosophy to designing clothing items over the past couple years, as I've just like made pieces like for myself or like for us, is like, let me take the items that I already love to wear and let me make my own version. I've got like a blue denim hat from Fortune. Let me do a blue denim hat because I love wearing that hat every day, but put Temple Mill on it and make it my own. Or like I love wearing black hoodies that have I like this Jaden Smith Sire hoodie that says like the beautiful confusion, has all these different prints on it, prints on the sleeves. I'm like, I want a hoodie that has print on the sleeves, and just did my own version of it. And like, if I look at a photo of me from 2016 and me now, my style is similar, except now I'm replacing one item at a time and making it my own. Instead of wearing I still wear other brands. Like this hat, I didn't design the hat. I wish I designed this hat. There's a lot of people like see like the mushrooms like on the hat and like ask me about it, which is just like, no one would ever just ask you about psychedelic mushrooms if you didn't have it on your hat, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, just also just playing with appearances in a way that is self-expressive. That's not like, you could either play with your appearance and be fronting and be like, yeah, I'm this tough something, whatever. Or you can genuinely express yourself. Also kind of like tattoos. Like, I love seeing really unique and genuine tattoos that aren't just someone getting a tattoo because it looks cool. Like, that's what I loved but misunderstood about Lil Peep's tattoos. When he was alive, I wasn't a fan of Lil Peep. I was like, this dude looks like Long Island trash. I didn't like it because the tattoo's like thin single line says love on his chest.
On it, all across his tummy.
Yeah, but now I'm like, he didn't give a fuck about how it looked. That wasn't why he got the tattoo. And it's just so simple-minded to just think, oh, someone just got that tattoo because they... And, of course, I mean, I guess there is a level of wanting to look a certain way when you get a tattoo added onto your body. Like when I got my first tattoo, all of a sudden I felt like a little bit less Mormon. Because now you can see on my skin, I got blasted A$AP Rocky words, or A$AP Rocky and Pharrell. But even like the more tattoo ideas I get as I'm older, like when I was younger, I was like, I want to get like a camera tattoo because I like cameras. I'm like, I like the idea of looking like I know that I like cameras.
Yeah.
I wanted people to look at me and say, oh, he clearly is
He shoots manual.
He shoots manual. He knows what he's doing. That was all for my ego. Even like in high school, literally for like 2 years straight, I brought my camera to school every single fucking day. Most of the days I wouldn't take one single picture. Like there would be full day. I just have my camera with me all the time. Didn't even take a single photo. And I would always tell myself it was because, like, you know, I wanted to be prepared to be able to take photos. And I was doing shoots all the time.
Yeah.
Just with friends and just, like, any opportunity I wanted to, like, take photos. But also, I loved how your boy looked with the camera on his side. Because I'm like, okay, he looks like he's creative and he's got purpose and potential. And he's got a unique eye for art. Or something like that. But it's like over time that just like that caring of what people think holds you back so fucking much. Like that was probably the thing that held me back the most in my life growing up was caring about what other people think and putting what I thought on the back burner. It's like, I think I tweeted this one time. It was like, if you're always listening to what other people think, you're never going to find out what you think.
Facts.
I'm like, I've been listening to other people my entire life. Everyone else is always teaching me and telling me what I should do and what I should believe. And I was never listening to myself. I was so disconnected from myself. I didn't know myself at all. I was lying to myself constantly for years. Still, I catch myself lying to myself. It's very difficult to be honest with yourself. Like, that was one of the realizations I came through going through therapy. Like, even when you vocalize it, talking to someone else, and, like, you care what they think about you. I'm a storyteller, you know? I want to tell Tim the exciting things. Like, he doesn't even got to crack me open. I'm just going to go straight for the fun stories, and I want this guy to know, you know, I'm not just any other kid from Provo, you know, like, I lived in the hood, man. I got beat up once, like, I'm not like these other kids, you know, but it's like, I was caring so much about what he thought. We didn't get to, like, the real juice for, like, over 6 months of talking on a weekly basis until we really started to get to the core of, like, why I was behaving a certain type of way, really starting to understand how I was functioning, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. Human behavior is weird. Like,
I think we got to wrap up soon.
yeah, we've been going for a minute.
We've been going for a minute. Real quick, though.
This has been a fire convo, by the way, boys. I love this shit.
Just on that kind of notion that you were hitting at, just to bring it right back to the beginning, like, it's a very, very privileged point that we're at now to be able to have this kind of a standard when it comes to, like, what we do and what we bring into our lives. But if you equate it back to, like a farm or, like, a pioneer, like, 300-400 years ago, you know, like, his like duty as a man is to take advantage of like his access to the best he can at the time and like go get farm equipment and use that access to gain more access money for his family, for his the influence that he has is his offspring. Yeah. And so like now this is like pretty vague, and I just barely am kind of making these connections now, so like it might not make any sense, so hear me out. But it's like now our duty as men is to expose ourselves to all the influence that we can, filter that, and then decide what's the best like message we can put out to better the influence that we have, whether that be our family and friends. So like we could just be like spouting negative stuff, sharing negative stuff, arguing all the time. You know, that's very easy. Mm-hmm. But we also can be going out there through the thicket of the internet and the world nowadays and finding the good, finding the treasures, and sharing those with our influence, sharing those with our friends and our family, and bringing those like nuggets of gold out of the mine of the internet back to our people, because like this can help you. And it's hard. It's definitely hard now. Like we're these first people that have to kind of weed through so much information. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Before, people didn't have this much information, and so it was a lot easier to be like, oh, this is what I like, and then you don't have to even question if that's what you like. Yeah. But nowadays, we're confronted with so much stuff all the time that often we're like, do I like this? Do I like this? Do I like that? How do I think about this? Do I hate these people? I don't like those people. Just all the time. And so now our like duty is to figure out how to filter that, because since the internet's been like, the Pandora box has been opened, there's not probably going to be another generations of humans who aren't confronted with just massive amounts of information. And so the most important aspect going forward as like a human society is going to be filtering information. Yeah. And filtering like
being a curator.
Like figuring out what's bad and what's good, and what you want to share with other people and what you want to just completely avoid. And like that's almost our duty now as like this first wave generation of the internet, is to figure out what we support, what we don't stand for, like what's good, what's bad. And it's pretty tough. Like there hasn't been people that have had to deal with this, so it's pretty wild. But I don't know, it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, I think about like what you just were saying kind of like sparked something, like how it's like you even see that like with like when like our grandmas are scrolling through the internet and they see like a pop-up or something, and they're like, whoa, if I just click on this I can win $10,000. And we're like, it's not it's not real, you know. It's like, so it's like we're already
Mr. Beast ad on YouTube that says next person to click this gets $10,000.
Right. It's like, so we already have like something in us that is like honing in on like filtering what is like real and what's not, you know, online. You know, it's just like really interesting to see how that evolves, you know. And then just like the random people that like pop up on social media that like say stuff, you know, regardless of what you think of someone like Andrew Tate, it's like that, like use him as an avatar. Like someone like that pops up, are you going to be the type of person that just blindly accepts everything that he says? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to have like a filtering process of like, you know, deciphering
both ways? Are you going to blindly ignore everything he says?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So yeah, it's like the easy thing is to think of it as black and white and just be like, screw this guy, or this guy is Jesus, you know? Like he's the second coming of Jesus to save all masculinity. It's like the truth is somewhere in the middle, you know? It's like you got to be able to decipher where the truth is in the mess of stuff, you know? And that's so hard because you have to think, you know? It's not just going to be handed to you. That's what we need to get away from. Like the old like media is like, this is the truth in front of you. You know, like the publications, media outlets, boom, this is all you need to do. Read this and you're good, you know? But it's like everyone's seeing through that now, regardless of what side you're on. No one trusts what's coming out. And so it's like you have to be able to think for yourself and decipher what's legit here, you know? And I think that that's just like the skill set that this generation on like online has to get better at, you know, of just like deciphering information and truth, you know.
Because like people will hear one really good take from someone and then think that they are always right. And like I was I'll kind of rap on this, but
Spit bars.
the homies, I'm gonna start spitting some bars. But this guy on TikTok, Sneeko, he's like one of those like a masculinity type, whatever. You know, I'd seen one of his older takes, and I was like, yeah, okay, I get that, like that. I understand that. And then I saw a debate with him later with this other guy who I've been really liking his videos, who's kind of been debating these really masculine type of dudes, who is like this like white kid with glasses.
I saw that.
Like Avalone or something like that.
I saw that video.
And they were talking about like men crying, and Sneeko was saying how like, you know, men need to be tough and how they shouldn't cry. And homie's like, this rhetoric that you're teaching is supporting why so many men commit suicide, because they suppress these emotions and bottle them up. And like, I saw that Sneeko got hit up by Kanye to work with Kanye.
Really?
But what I love about Kanye is he's not afraid to show his emotion and to publicly cry. Kanye has cried publicly multiple times.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that he's any less of a man. He's breaking that stigma that, men can't be in tune with their emotions and can't be vulnerable and emotional. They're supposed to be tough and strong. And he was like, Sneeko was like, you should pride yourself in your toughness, in your ability to be emotionless. It's like, you know, on one hand, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, if you're the man of the house, there's a bunch of children, and something traumatic happens, like, you can't go and cry in the corner. You got to tough it up.
Yeah, you can't be in a fetal position in the floor. You got to
be responsible. But also, teaching that men should never cry, that you should bottle your emotions, and that you should be this ultra-masculine man, that's not the reality of men.
Yeah.
The reality of men is that we are all very different in all shapes and sizes. And some men are more feminine, more in touch with their emotions. And a lot of it isn't even like how you're born. It's like environmentally based. Think about a man who was raised by his mother versus a man raised by his father. The one raised by his mother is going to be way more in tune with his feminine side because he's been with a woman his whole life, and he's been taught by that woman, versus a man that's been raised by this army captain who served in World War III and is like super this certain type of way, is going to be another type of dude, which is okay.
Yeah.
That there's these different types of men, and we shouldn't be teaching that men have to be this certain type of way. We should be teaching that we live in a society where maybe there's a couple with a masculine woman and a feminine guy, and that's okay. Or maybe, like, I don't know, it's like we're not in the fucking 1950s anymore where I need to go to World War II and fucking be this army man. I could go and be a baker if I want to, or a food scientist, or we live in a different world. I could go make Barbies for a living if I wanted to. I could, life doesn't have to be narrowed down to our local regions how it used to be, where I need to grow up and be a carpenter just because my father was a carpenter and my father's father was a carpenter. So we come from a generation of carpenters.
Yeah.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
Because you had to be taught a trade from a direct source. Mm-hmm. Now you can learn skills from all over the world. Yeah. From the internet, from different people.
It's really flipped everything. Like what Adam was saying of like, we are the first generation that is kind of like seen it. It's like everything's different, like, and that's why I feel like there's so many discussions happening about things like masculinity and stuff, because it's like these traditional roles are being reevaluated for the first time, and that's why it's like my opinion, it's like we can't go too far in one direction or the other, because it's like we don't want to overcorrect right away for something. Like I understand why people are like I understand both sides, because it's like some people are holding on to traditional values. Other people are like, let's go do whatever we want, you know? And I think it's somewhere in the middle. And it's like, but everything's changing of like what you can do with your life. Like of, you know, back to the thing of like privilege of like we in like this age, like this country and how we grew up, it's like we have the privilege of saying like, I want to be a photographer. I want to go make videos. Like, it's like like if we were born 100 years earlier, it was like, that wasn't even a question. It was like, so when you starting carpentry, like this year next, it wasn't like, what do you want to do with your life? It was like, what kind of hammer you want to use? Like, it was like, just so like, so it wasn't even a question. And it's like, and that is like an issue too, because like, you know, when I was in my early 20s, it was like, what do I do with my life? It's like, and a lot of people face that as well. It's like, that's a question that most people would even have to ask themselves. And when you live in a society where it's like, you can kind of do whatever you want, you now have like an over like availability of decisions and options. So some people get overwhelmed with that and don't make any choice, you know? And I did that for years, you know? It was like, in my early 20s, it was like, I could do this. I could go start, like this, you know, I could, work for my dad. I could do this. And it's like, you know, the world is your oyster. And sometimes you get overwhelmed and like, you don't pick because you're like too busy deciding,
analyzing,
you know, it's like there's 50 options of the Monster energy drink and you're like, red, blue, no, like, and it's like you spend years sitting in that space. Whereas like if it was just a random gas station, it had one flavor,
you'd grab it.
Boom, you know, it's like that's part of this generation that is really hard, is like you have to really know yourself at a deep core and like make decisions. You know, it's because in the past it wasn't your place to make that decision. It was like your family, like, oh, you're a Richardson, you're a baker, you know?
Dude,
it was in your family blood that you did that thing. Like, and it was in your culture, you know? It's like everyone in Provo, they know that the Richardsons, they bake, you know? And if you're the only guy in the family, like the only son, you gotta keep that business going, you know? It's like, it's weird, you know? Everything's flipping. And it's hard to navigate.
That abundance is really everywhere too. Like, if you don't know, like, who you are or what you like, and you're like, okay, day's over, let's throw on some Netflix, dude. But 10,000 options. You know, like if you don't know anything about yourself or like what you like or what your preferences are, it's gonna be a decision paralysis all the time, because we're at that stage where we have it all. We have whatever we want, and it's pretty apparent. Like we can see people in our day-to-day lives who don't commit to anything, don't decide what they want, and just keep going, because like you can just survive now. It's easy, and so
that's why it's so dope when you stumble across like Joe Rogan. When it's like you can decide, oh, I fuck with this dude. Now I got a lifetime of content to listen to. I just like, oh, I know I want to listen to a Joe Rogan. I know part of my decision is already made.
Yeah.
Or the same with like, you know, watching Survivor. Like your boy's obsessed with Survivor, and there's 43 seasons.
Man,
that's insane.
I'm like, man, there's so much Survivor. Like, it goes on and on and on, but shit, this has been such a fire episode, boys. Like, hey, once they stumble across Convos with Humans at whatever point, they're gonna be like, damn, them boys got 47 episodes, 400 episodes. Like, it's crazy how much content we already have. Like, anybody out here who's listened to every single episode, y'all are like probably tight with us. Like, we're gonna do like an event or something in the future and be able to meet you guys, and y'all are gonna just be like already homies with us. Like, The vibe is to like have this set up like on a stage. We're sitting at a couch just like this. Y'all are right over there, and we're talking exactly like this.
Yeah,
and we're just being us.
It'd be
talking
so,
about whatever we want.
Yeah, it'd be so sick to just put a couch on a stage with like some plants and stuff. Just like recreate the living room.
Or, like, imagine we get a celebrity on here and people are like, I don't remember when them boys was in the garage.
Yeah.
I remember when them boys was, you know.
The second garage.
Bro,
and then now we're sitting here with Tom Cruise.
It's weird because we'll wrap up in 1 sec. It's like, it's weird because like when you start like doing something like this, like a podcast, it's like the first thing, because like we talked about doing a podcast when we first moved into the first Provo 3-bedroom spot, but it was more so like you were like, let's do a podcast, and I was like really like, I don't have anything to say. I feel weird. Like I don't want to be on a pedestal, you know, who am I to like say anything? And I still hold that like belief. It's like, for sure, who are we to be the arbiters of truth? You know, it's like, but that's not what we're doing. It's like, if you look at it from that perspective of like, we're here preaching, then it gets really corny real quick. But what we're doing is like, we're just hanging out, being us, like talking about our experience living on this planet at age 29 and 24.
Yeah, 24.
24. Yeah,
we're not reading off any scripts. We're just off the top of our dome.
We're just sharing our experience of the here and now of what we're experiencing, capturing it, putting it online, seeing what happens. And like, we're not saying that we know anything. We're just sharing where we are. And I think that that's just like interesting to like put out and see what happens. Like, it's really weird, you know? Like
it's like gonna be weird when like we meet a stranger that knows us this well.
Yeah, that's heard our conversations.
Because there's like people that,
but we don't know them.
Look, if you've listened to every episode of the podcast,
you probably know us better than we know ourselves.
Exactly. Like, well, maybe not better than we know ourselves, but better than even some of our closest friends.
Yeah.
And like people that don't know about like, because even like all of our friends and family, they don't listen to all the episodes. Like, so I feel like there needs to be like a slight layer of separation from a podcast that you really like. Like if it's like, well, I don't know, this could be like maybe a limiting belief, but like if it's someone that you like really, really know,
it's a little weird.
It's a little bit weird.
Yeah. But it's like Michaela's not going to listen to this, you know? Like,
but if they're like maybe one, like, you know, like your little brother loves this podcast and he's like the perfect person to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Because we're like his older brother's homies. Like imagine like being able to listen to your older brother's homies on a podcast. Like as a little kid, I was like, damn, I would love to hear what those dudes are talking about when they're just like chilling with each other, you know? But it's been lit, boys.
Yeah.
This fire episode. Hey, y'all.
It's hard to wrap it up.
Drop a comment below. Chaboys is out here. We're going to get more podcasts going. We got a couple
we're gonna get
lined up in the future.
We're going to get a little LED light up here. That's when you know it's official.
Yes, sir. So, y'all already know what the deal is. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, at Convos with Humans. And we'll catch y'all on the flip.
Catch y'all on the flip.
Peace.